continuation to our wills discussion that you remember we had not that long ago. On this occasion, I wanted to talk to you about the different types of wills, because I am aware you get approached very often, and then the first thing that clients ask you about is what wills are available for actually non-Muslim expatriates in the UAE.
Right. Well, there are a number of options available for expats, for non-Muslim expats in the UAE. The first one is the DIFC, and where you can officially register a will in order to dispose of your assets, and also appoint a guardian for your minor children. The other option is Dubai Courts Notary Public, where you notarize a bilingual will. The third option is Abu Dhabi Judicial Department Notary Public, where basically you notarize a bilingual will, and in that will basically you're only allowed to include assets located in the UAE. And then we have a very specific will that's for Abu Dhabi Global Market, and that's an ADGM will, where it's actually specifically for people who are actually employed with ADGM or employed with an entity that's registered at ADGM.
Nima, I had a friend call me, and she's working for a Dubai government company. She's read a lot about ADGM wills, and in fact, some of her social contacts went for ADGM wills. And the question I would like to ask you, would an ADGM will be available to her?
Well, the short answer is no, because ADGM will is specifically reserved for ADGM community, meaning someone who's actually employed at ADGM or someone who's employed at an entity that's registered with ADGM. That person has other options available to her. However, the ADGM is not an option because she's not registered with ADGM as an employee or as someone who's actually employed with the ADGM entity.
Another thing that often really comes your way is questions about wills that will concern assets based in the UAE, as well as assets based in foreign countries. And a potential client contacted me last week and said, well, I've got a villa in Dubai, but I also have some assets in Singapore. Is there a will that I could actually draw up in the UAE to cover these two jurisdictions?
Right. Well, basically there are two options available for that person. We have the DIFC, and then we have Dubai Notary Public. The DIFC allows you to include, as long as you have an asset in the UAE, to include worldwide assets as well, meaning you can include assets that's in Singapore or in Germany or in the UK, depending on that jurisdiction judicial basically system allowing for the execution of such will. However, the DIFC perfectly allows this to happen. You can register your will in the DIFC and include those assets. The Dubai Notary Public will also allows you to include assets that are outside of the UAE. The difference between these two is, the difference between these two wills are one, financially, meaning the registration fees are way different, and then the other is that for the Dubai court's will, you have to provide proof of ownership of every single asset that you want to include in your will. And if you're talking about assets located outside of the UAE, that piece of asset needs to basically be attested all the way to the UAE embassy of that foreign country. So I have a question though. Is it essential basically to have someone professional, someone who actually understands the laws of the wills and testamentary basically principles in the UAE to draw up your will, or can you do it yourself if you're a lay person, let's say?
Well, the law itself allows anybody to really, to draw up their will. So, in theory, although I may not really know the details of wills, then I would still be able to go and really draw up my own will, and then ask the DIFC, for example, to register it. Or I could also go to the notary and then get, of course, Arabic language assistance and get it done. But if I do that, although it is allowed, I would say, individuals who are not experts in wills are running quite a substantial risk of leaving out elements that are very important, maybe choosing the option for the will that is not the most suitable option for them, perhaps making some formal side of things, mistakes in the will itself that will then make it either ineffective or more difficult for the heirs to benefit from. So the short answer is yes, it's allowed, but it's highly recommended to have a qualified individual, specialist in wills, to help in drawing up a will and choosing the right option for the will and take you through that process to make sure that it actually achieves the objectives.
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you, Nima. It was really a pleasure having you here.
Likewise.
For our viewers and the listeners, thank you very much. We hope you found our wills-related content informative. And if you have any questions, if you are interested in learning more or actually assistance in drawing up a will, please let us know. We're here to help you.